working either for Harv or for Success Resources, they live an amazing life. Raise your hand and believe that's true. And everywhere they go, they're helping people transform their lives. How many think that would be a fun job to have? So when Harv said, hey, you know what? For the first time, I'm going to open it up to any of you guys. If you come to my Train the Trainer program and you're interested in possibly becoming a full-time trainer with Peak Potentials Training, you just let us know when you sign up, and we'll put a little star on your chest, like a, or on your badge, because everybody would wear their badges, and there'd be a little gold star, and that way we'd keep an extra close eye on you while you're at the Train the Trainer event to see whether or not maybe you've got the right stuff to be a trainer with us. Does that make sense? Now, do you think there were a lot of people that were coming to Harv Eker's programs, and there were 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 people coming to our events, and they would see every break, everybody would run up to the stage and touch Harv and get his autograph and hug him and kiss him? Do you think that there were people out there in that audience that would love to become the next Harv? Read anything? Yeah. And they didn't have to worry about filling up the room. All they had to do was show up there and do the deal. Right? It's like learning a script. Because since Harv documented every single thing, guess all what they had to do? Follow the instructions. Raise your hand if that's a pretty good idea. So if he had 12 programs, he had 12 manifests. Here's what we do day 1, hour 1. Here's what I say. Here's what they hand out. Here's what you ask your audience to do. And here's how we're going to do it, right? And now here's hour 2. Here's what I say. Here's how I say it. Here's what the game we play. And then we take a break. And it's all been written out so that you don't have to do any thinking. All you have to do is just memorize the lines. You don't even have to memorize the lines, because we always had a little book stand where all the notes were there, so you could just read as you went along. So as long as you're capable of reading, you were good to go. So that qualified a lot of people. So what did he do? He went from being at the front of the stage to then finally saying, hey, I want to introduce you to Manny. Manny's going to be training you guys now for the next half day. And Manny came to us from blah, blah, blah. And oh my God, once we saw Manny's skills and his background and blah, 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 he blew us out of the park. You guys are going to, I want everybody to please stand up and give it a big time for Manny, right? And now Manny would come up on the stage, right? And Manny would get his feet wet at 3 or 4 events, until eventually Manny had gotten used to doing part of the event, and then eventually Harv wouldn't go at all. Manny would just do the whole darn thing. Does that make sense? Yeah. Now, if you own a business that has lots of people going to it all the time, and they've never seen you, but Manny can read your lines as well as you wrote them, so everybody thinks Manny's a genius, and they're paying lots and lots of money. How much work are you doing at that point? How much are you doing? Yeah, you have what's called passive income. How many would love to have a business that creates what? Passive income. Yeah, but not just like, $2,000 a month or $5,000 a month, because in all of these programs, probably after all expenses and everything, it's way over 6 figures. How many would like to have passive income 6 figures a month? Well, okay, well, that was his plan. Was he thinking big? Yes. Okay, if your goal is to have $3,000 of passive income a month, then more than likely the best you're going to end up with is what? Yeah, now if you decide, screw $3,000 a month, I want $100,000 a month, are you going to have to make different plans? Are you going to have to think a different way? Are you going to have to focus on different things? Okay, so are you going to play small or are you going to play big? Because you still only have 24 hours in the day, isn't that true? Whether you play small, whether you play big, at the end of the day, 24 hours is going to come or go. So why wouldn't you rather play big? If you have the choice, you can sell something when somebody says yes, you're going to make a $5,000 commission. Or you can sell something and every time somebody says yes, you're going to make a $50 commission. Which are you going to choose? You know what? Right now you have that choice. There's many things out there right now that sell for $25,000. If you sell it, you make a 20% commission. You know what 20% is on $25,000? $5 grand. They're out there right now. You sell one a month, that's $5,000. How many hours would you have to work to earn $5,000? Well, I mean, at a job. Yeah. Most people don't make $5,000 in a month. What if you could make $5,000 for a sale? And you could do one a week. Now, if you haven't positioned yourself so that opportunity exists for you, what's the likelihood it's ever going to happen? Well, why aren't you positioning yourself for that opportunity to happen? Why aren't you positioning yourself to make that happen? Because you don't know how? Because you didn't realize you could? What's everybody's story? What's the key word? Story. What's your story? Why aren't you doing this? I am creating right now a $25,000 full year program that I guarantee you, if you do all the programs and the coaching that I will do with you for a year, your life will be transformed. $25,000. Tons and tons of one-on-one training. If you want to become an affiliate and introduce people to me that would be interested, I pay a 20% commission. What's 20% on $25,000? Okay, you want to earn $5,000? Come to my office. I'll show you my full year program. You might want to take it yourself. You may want to introduce other people that you know could take that program and would benefit from it. There's a way for you to earn $5,000 in a sale. What if you could make a couple of sales a week? That would be $10,000 a week. That would be $40,000 a month. How many of you guys would like to make $40,000 a month? How many, do you think I would be happy to pay you that $40,000? Yeah. Raise your hand if you think I'd be thrilled to death to pay you guys $40,000. Okay. What do you have to do? Open up your mouth and tell people. That's it. What could be easier than to open up your mouth? You don't have to do the full year's worth of programs and everything. I'll take care of that. All you have to do is open up your mouth and know what to say. True. That's it. Now, that's just one example. That wasn't really my intention right now, but I wanted you to get that. Harv is always wanting you to figure out how can I legitimately offer real value to people and get the most amount of money with the least amount of my own personal effort, which means you have to become a master at the word leverage. What's the word? Leverage. And we are not trained on how to use leverage at all. And so one of the things that in this book we talk about so much, and Harv talks about, is this whole concept of leverage. And what are some of the things that you and I, all of us in this room, could be leveraging? What could we be leveraging?
Other people's money.
Other people's money. Raise your hand if we could leverage other people's money. Yup, other people have money. They don't know what to do with it. Hey, if you could be earning 25% on money, if you figured out some way, and you could borrow it at 10%, how much money would you like to borrow at 10% if you could earn 25% on it? Yeah. Yeah, what if you had really good credit and you had, lots of real estate and you could get the home equity lines of credit and now you're paying 3%. How much money would you like to borrow at 3% and earn 15 or 20%? That's called arbitrage. What's it called? Arbitrage. Yeah, borrow the money at this low rate and invest it at this high rate and you make the spread. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of that before. That's how really rich people get even richer. They just arbitrage. Because they have access to huge amounts of money at very, 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 very low costs because they have great credit. And then they know lots of entrepreneurs and investors or people out there that will gladly pay 8, 10, 12, 13, 15%, plus a piece of the action very often for that money. So if you have great credit and you can add access to lots and lots of money at a really, really cheap rate, all you got to do now is find where to invest that money at a much higher rate. True or true? True. Do you think that's a good strategy? Yeah, you know what? Do you think there are people out there doing exactly what I just described? Yeah, you know what? Now, I don't know where you are in the spectrum. That may be something you could work towards in the future. It may not be realistic right now, but it's definitely a strategy that's worth considering. How many would agree? Yeah, absolutely. It's like one of the best strategies you could ever hope to consider. So in any event, Harv wrote this book. Harv is a genius at business. I went and worked with Harv. I was with him while he wrote the book. And Harv is truly a genius. Now, in the first part of the book, he talks about this thing called our money and success blueprint. What's it called? Money and success blueprint. Come on, twice as loud. Money and success blueprint. Yeah, in fact, he goes on to say that unless your unconscious or subconscious money blueprint isn't already set, and what's the key word? Set. For high levels of success, nothing you learn, nothing you say, and nothing you do will make much of a difference for you. Does that make sense to everybody here? Yes. So in other words, you are already preset for a certain level of success right now. Would you like to know what you're currently set for? Yes. Look at your results in your life. Look at your fruits. That will tell you what your roots are. True or true? If you're not seeing humongous success, then you don't have roots for humongous success. If you're seeing humongous struggle, then guess what kind of roots you currently have? Yeah. Now, what's insanity? The definition of insanity. Yeah. And here are all these insane people wishing and hoping for things to change without them first realizing that for things to change, what has to happen first? Yeah. And it's insane to think that things are going to change until what happens first? Until I change. Say, until I change. Until I change, nothing changes. Again. Again. Tell both your neighbors. Yeah. Like, so until you're willing to change, nothing changes. True or true? Okay, until you're willing to change. So, what Harv talked about was this. And let me quickly get to it. Who knows what this is right here? TFAR. What's that stand for? Process of manifestation. Yeah, it's called the process of manifestation. What's it called, guys? Process of manifestation. Yeah, it says our thoughts lead to our, which lead to our, which lead to our. Now, our thoughts, feelings, and actions are our current subconscious or unconscious blueprint. Our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions, that's our current blueprint. So when it comes to money and business, every single one of us already has ingrained in us a money blueprint. How many would agree? We all do. We have certain thoughts, certain feelings, and certain actions. Now, where do our thoughts come from? It comes from the information and the programming that we received, especially when we were younger. And who are the people that were the ones that were giving us all this programming and all this information? Our parents. Who else? Our teachers. Who else? Grandparents, church, the media, radio, culture. Like, let's take culture, for example. Isn't it true that in some cultures, they deal with business and money in one way. In other cultures, they deal with business and money in a totally different way? Raise your hand if you believe that's true. Well, did they come out of the womb doing it that way, or were they taught how to do it that way? Yeah, they were. You say, I was taught. Now, here's the thing. You weren't taught in the traditional way. You weren't sat down in the classroom and said, okay, here's how it is. We were taught through what's called conditioning processes. So how were we taught? Conditioning processes. And there are three. How many? Three. How many? Three. Yeah, there are three ways that we are conditioned. Who knows what the three ways are? Brian? What we heard, what we saw, and what we experienced. Yeah, what we hear is called verbal programming. What's it called? Verbal programming. Yeah, what we saw is called modeling. What's it called? Modeling. Yeah, and then whatever experiences we had in our life, that's called specific incidents. What's it called? Specific incidents. Well, we've already gone over what we heard. Because we heard all kinds of bullshit about money and rich people and success when we were growing up. but we didn't know any better, so we just took it all in, and whatever we heard had to be true, right? How many would agree? So what were some of the things we heard? The rich get, and the poor get. Raise your hand if you heard that. It takes money to. Yeah, raise your hand if you heard that. It costs too much. Raise your hand if you ever heard that. It's too expensive. Raise your hand if you heard that. We can't afford it. Raise your hand if you heard that. What am I, made of money? You raise your hand if you heard of that, right? Okay, so all these things, I didn't just hear them. You know who's heard them? Who's heard them? So guess what ridiculous bullshit viruses is in everybody's mind? Because we've all heard it. Now, just because you haven't thought about it in years doesn't mean it's still not part of your filing cabinet in your subconscious mind. How many would agree? Your subconscious mind does not forget. It remembers stuff from even before your memory goes back. How many believe that's true? And so you have to understand that you heard a lot of stuff, and we did a declaration so that we can recondition ourselves. Now there's 4 steps. How many? 4. In reconditioning yourself in the 3 different areas that we get programmed. So who knows what the 4 steps are, because we do it for each one of these 3 areas. Jonathan, what's step number 1? Awareness. Awareness is number 1. What's the word, guys? Awareness. You can't do something until you're aware of it. How many would agree? Yeah, can't change it if you're not even aware that there's something that needs to be changed. What's the second thing, Jonathan? Understanding. Understanding, thank you. Understanding. Understanding, it means a couple of things. Number 1, it means understanding how did this specific way of thinking get planted in my mind? How did this program get installed inside of me? How did that happen? And how has that belief affected my decisions? Is that important? Yes. You need to understand how that belief system that you've had going on inside of yourself, how has that affected every single frickin' decision you've made in your life until now. True or true? True. Is that an important step to go through? Yes. Do you think most people go through it? No. What's the 3rd step, Jonathan? Disassociation. Disassociation. What's the word, guys? Disassociation. Maybe for the first time you begin to realize that these thought farts, these ways of thinking that you've been believing and saying and thinking that you've had up until now, maybe for the first time you realize, man, that's a very negative, disempowering thought. Maybe I need to cancel that thought out in the future and stop thinking those negative, disempowering thoughts. Raise your hand if you think you ever have any negative or disempowering thoughts. And in fact, I will tell you about 90% of your thoughts are negative and disempowering and false. Which is why when I say don't believe a word I say, if you want to be really smart, don't believe a word you say. In fact, if you want to be totally enlightened, don't believe a thought you. How many agree? That's enlightenment. When you start questioning every single thought you have, and you begin to realize that you need to begin to disassociate. What's the word? Disassociate. Are beliefs true or false? Neither. But they're true to you, aren't they? Yes. Guess who gets to choose your beliefs? Yeah, if your beliefs are not getting you what you want, then who has the option of changing their beliefs? If you're not getting all the money you want, if you're not getting all the success you want, are you allowed to change your beliefs so you can start getting more money, more happiness, more success? Yes. Why wouldn't you change your beliefs then? Okay, maybe that could be it. But the first thing you do is you commit to changing your beliefs. You commit from having beliefs that are negative and disempowering to replacing them with beliefs that are what? Empowering. Positive and empowering. How many would agree? Absolutely, you bet. Very, very much so. Okay, so you get to choose your programming. Say, I get to choose my programming. I get to choose my programming. Okay, once you're an adult and you're aware, you get to choose your programming. So if you're constantly unhappy, if you're constantly struggling, if you're constantly not achieving what you want, if you're constantly living in your false self, whose fault is it at this point? Who's it up to change things? Yeah, so the fourth step after disassociation is what, Jonathan? Reconditioning. We're going to take that old way of thinking, we're going to kick it off out to the side, we're going to create a new way of thinking, a new belief, and then we're going to take that belief and we're going to hammer it into our brain until that becomes automatically who we are. Yes or yes? Yes. And just as I was saying before, you do that through something called autosuggestion. What's the word? Autosuggestion. And autosuggestion is a huge part of the secret that Napoleon Hill says that maybe 1 in 1,000 truly appreciates. To plant in your mind automatically certain, like our declarations, and plant these declarations in our mind every single morning, every single night. Have it in front of us during the day, constantly on our mind, so that eventually our brain gets so saturated at the subconscious level that we just naturally, whatever we say we do at 100%. Every single one of those declarations becomes who you are. How would you like to become the person that those declarations say you are? Okay, and how do you become that person? How do you become that person that's on that declaration sheet? Yeah, which means what? How are you going to become this person?
You read it over and over.
What's the very first one say? I would suggest that you say that to yourself 1,000,000 times a day. Until, guess what you do? Until you're totally committed to what? Because your income will only grow to the extent you do. How many would agree? If you're a level 2 person, you'll never earn more than level 2 income. Even if you're in a level 10 opportunity. True or true? But if you're a level 10 person and you're in a level 10 opportunity, what kind of money are you going to make?
Level 10.
Yeah. But it's up to you to become that level 10 person first. True or true? Can you buy being a level 10 person? No. Can somebody learn to become a level 10 person for you? No. You can't buy it and you can't have anybody do it for you. You have to do it on your own, and you cannot buy it. You actually have to invest the time to do it. You have to invest your personal life energy to become this person. Yes? Yes. Listen, one of the things I want to do before we get back into the book again is this. Yes, go ahead.
I was just a comment on that. So one useful tool that I use for the declarations is I get out my phone and I voice record all my declarations. I have 14 minutes of declarations, and I've noticed myself throughout the day, it just pops into my head. So if I'm feeling uncertain, one of the beliefs I have is uncertainty and confusion are my gateways to my clarity, my focus, my purpose, and my vision.
Beautiful.
So that would come up in just the middle of the day because I did the auto-suggestion over and over again. I would listen to it, I would say it in the morning before bed.
Yep.
So it does really work. And once you start to notice it in your life, it will click and you'll want to do it more often.
Thank you. And in addition to that, there's something called the reticular activating system. How many of you ever heard of the reticular activating system? It kind of works this way. You know, maybe you're thinking, you know, it's time for me to buy a car. I wonder what kind of car I want to buy. I'm thinking maybe I'll get one of those new BMWs. Yeah, you know, and now all of a sudden you're driving around and you know what you start noticing on the streets? Yeah, it's like you planted this idea in your brain, and now all of a sudden you suddenly become aware of all the other BMWs on the road, and that's called the reticular activating system. When you understand how the reticular activating system works, what you want to do is you want to leverage this natural occurrence. Just like you don't have to understand how gravity works to know that how gravity works, right? You don't have to understand how the reticular activating system works. Just understand that as you plant certain seeds and certain ideas, all of a sudden your mind is just kind of like, without you even realizing it, it's starting to pick up and notice things in the past you hadn't noticed. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about, right? Exactly.
I have a story.
Reticular activating system.
Yep.
I have a story.
Yep, real quick.
I'm moving to a new condo, and I
What were you saying? Nothing. Louder. Everybody, you're not telling me. Tell everybody.
I needed a second office chair.
Yep.
So I started thinking about a second office chair, and all of a sudden one showed up right next to the dumpster for free. So I was
There you go. Okay. You put it out there in the ether, and look what came back. There you go. Right? Okay. All right. So again, real quickly, and then we're going to get back into the book. There's 4 steps that all of us need to go through on our journey to real enlightenment. The first thing is you have to understand that of all the accurate knowledge and wisdom and data that exists in the universe today, what percentage of all the accurate information and data that exists in the world today do you currently have inside your mind? Of all the information that's out there that you could know, that's not just bullshit, the real true facts, real solid information, what percentage of it do you think you currently contain inside your mind? 2%? 2%. So have you seen some of these libraries that are like huge mausoleums, like gigantic, and there's books stacked to the ceiling? You think you know about 2% of all those books' knowledge? Of all the knowledge that's out there, how much you think you know? In other words, do you realize how little you actually know? Do you guys realize how little you actually know? Of all the wisdom and knowledge that's out there, you don't even know enough. Like if you spit in the ocean, there'd be more of your spit in the ocean than how much knowledge you know compared to how much knowledge is out there. True or true? Okay.
I
Now,
have an advantage, Jeff, because my mom knows everything.
okay. So does my wife. Oh, I didn't say that. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. But here's my point. Here's my point, guys, because we want to get into the book. The first thing is that we all start off unconsciously incompetent. What are the 2 words? Unconsciously incompetent. Not only do you not know, but you don't even know that you don't even know. You guys know what I'm talking about? Yep. There's all this information about this one area right here that, man, if you knew it, you'd be rich, but you don't even know that you don't even know it. True or true? True. So then, you're at a training, you're at an event like this, you're reading a book, you're something, all of a sudden you discover that there's this whole thing going on here and there's people getting rich from it and you didn't even know it existed before. Raise your hand if that's ever happened before. And you say, wow, that is so cool. I had no idea that there's all these people here that are doing this and making a lot of money. Now you are what's called consciously incompetent. What are you? Consciously incompetent. In other words, you know what it is that you don't know. But at least now you know you don't. Now it is you know that, oh wow, there's all this stuff here. I don't know it. What's that called? Consciously incompetent. Now this is important for you to understand. Because when you get this at the cellular level, what I'm teaching you right now, everything will change. So once you become aware, then you say, well, here's this guy here, and he is just kicking butt at it, and he said that he was looking for a protege, and he's going to be my mentor. And he's going to show me exactly what to do in this business. And as he's showing it to me, it's not easy. I gotta do this, and it's not, and I gotta do it this way, and there's all this new stuff you have to learn, okay? And in order for me to do it, I have to read the manual and then do it, and then read the manual and then do it. I am now consciously competent. What's it called? Consciously competent. I can do it, but only if I put all my concentration on doing it. Does that make sense? Yeah? Because it's not easy. I haven't, but after I've done this 100 times, I move to the next level, which is I become unconsciously competent. What's it called? Unconsciously competent. Yeah. Now, I can have a full conversation with a bunch of people while I'm doing it, and it gets done perfect every single time. And I'm not even concentrating on doing it so much. I'm just having my conversation, and we're talking about your music or whatever it is we're talking about, and it's getting done. And what's that called when you get to the fourth level? Unconsciously competent. Now, when you were a baby and you were learning to walk, you went through all those 4 stages. Yeah, eventually, you got to the point where you could walk, but man, you really need to concentrate. How much do you think about walking now? But was there a time when it was really hard to do and you really had to concentrate to stay on your feet? Raise your hand if it was true. Yeah. How about driving a car? You got inside that car, man, you put your, I know, you have to check the rear view mirror, check the 2 side mirrors, put it into gear, check over your shoulder, you're checking, the light's turning orange, should I stop now? I mean, you got to think about everything. Should I put on my blinker? I need to change lanes. All this, raise your hand. It's like a flood of stuff going into your brain that you're trying to process at the same time. True or true? Okay. How many of you this morning drove here versus how many of you this morning your car drove you here? Were you concentrating on your driving while you were driving here, or did the car pretty much just get you here?
Not sure how I got here.
That's right. Raise your hand if that's true for all of us. Yeah, because we went through the 4 steps where eventually we drove so often it was second nature. How about someone that learned how to play the piano? And in the first year, they got to play, they're learning how the keys and they're learning how to do this stuff, and they practice playing a song. After a year, is it possible they could be playing that song and having a conversation with you at the same time? Yes. They went through how many steps? 4 steps, from not even knowing that there was such a thing as a piano and they could play it, to suddenly being introduced to the piano and saying, oh, you can play this piano and make music from it and maybe even earn a living from it and have fun with it? Cool. Okay, and now they're consciously aware that they don't know how to play the piano, but they know that there is such a thing as a piano. And then they go through the process of learning how to play the piano, and then eventually they can play the piano and have a good time and talk to everybody and do all that kind of stuff whenever they want. Is that true for anything you want to learn in life? Raise your hand if you believe that's true for anything you want to. So if you want to learn how to become a phenomenal entrepreneur, raise your hand if you're just going to have to go through those same 4 steps. That's it. It's just that simple. We don't have to make it any more challenging than it is. What is the key? First, you need to become aware. And then after you become aware that you don't know what you don't even know, you say, holy jeez, you know what? I had no idea that entrepreneurship opened up all these fantastic doors for me. I'm enlightened now. I realize that I don't know how to be an entrepreneur, but I understand that there are. Well, then the third step is you're going to learn how to be an entrepreneur. Who do you want to learn from? Who do you want to learn from? Yeah, you want to learn from the best, but as much as you're learning, most of your learning is going to happen when you are physically doing. How many would agree? Yeah, you want to learn from the best, but the more important thing is, are you doing it, and then is somebody critiquing you to make sure that you're doing it properly? And it's like the coach that watches a film of you on tape and says, you know what, I watched film on you and your technique is not quite right here or whatever. You guys know what I mean? Yeah, for us as entrepreneurs, do you think that learning certain scripts might be invaluable to you? Yes. If someone says to you, so what do you do? Are you ever going to get asked that question? Do you think that you should have a locked down, nailed down answer so that when someone says to you, what do? You've scripted it all out so that if they're the right person for you, boy, I mean, they're gonna want to know more. Raise your hand if you think that would be a good idea. Okay, so I ask hundreds of people all the time, what do? You think most people have a good answer? No. You go to an event like this. If I said, okay, every one of you stand up right now, give us your 30-second testimonial. Do you think most people have a good 30-second elevator pitch? No. Why? Are you just too lazy, or are you just too dumb to realize that you might have to say it a few times in your life? What is everybody's excuse? What do you think everybody's excuse is? That they know they should have them, but they don't. They don't know what to say. That could be part of the answer. Or they could learn, couldn't they? Yes. Okay, what else? They don't have enough time. How much time do you think it takes?
30 seconds.
How much time do you think it would take to come up with a 30-second spiel? How much time? Okay, 10 minutes. Okay, so I don't have enough time. That's bullshit as well. But that's our mind trick, right? That's our mind taking us out. We know we should do it, but for whatever reason we don't. That's called procrastination. What's it called? Procrastination. That's why you guys need to do my Think and Grow Rich training, because decision making is the only way to break the bad habit of procrastination. Make a frickin' decision. And that decision, if it's not followed by action, is not a decision. It's a decision to decide later. Your decision is, yes, I am doing it. What's the next step? Can I do it immediately? Or when is the fastest I can begin to take that next step? That's when you've made a decision. Does a decision require courage? Yes. Yeah, because sometimes you don't know when you make the decision whether or not it's going to work or not, right? What if somebody says, hey, I got this marketing program. We're going to reach out to 50,000 people, your perfect target market, but it's $10,000. But I got to know right now, because we're going to start marketing it today, and if you're not interested, I'm going to go with someone else. And you say, well, let me do the math in my head. You know what? All we need is like 6 people to buy to break even. Anything over that's a profit. All right, let's go for it. Right? So you can either say yes or you're going to say no. Now, when you say yes, are you sure that that was the right decision? No. Do you think every entrepreneur is sure every time they make a decision? No. Here's the problem. When you were in grade school, when you were given a test, what happened if you got an F? You were held back. True or true? Okay, one failure, you're out, right? In the entrepreneurial world, guess how often we fail? Yeah, are we programmed to fail? We're programmed to do the exact opposite. We fear failure. Instead of being encouraged to fail, we say, you fail, you're out. Not true? Yes. You fail in college, you're out. Right? That's how we're taught. As entrepreneurs, are we going to fail often? Yes. If our programming is we fear failure, what's the likelihood we're going to be willing to try something that will probably fail? Most entrepreneurs, do you think everything they planned works 100% right the first time? No. Virtually nothing works 100% the first time. Which means we're going to have to correct and continue, which means we're going to have to deal with lots of temporary failures. How many would agree? As entrepreneurs, we are not trained to be that person. We aren't. We're trained that failure is bad. If you're going to be an inventor and you believe failure is bad, what kind of an inventor are you going to be? You're not going to be an inventor, right? Which is 90% of all the people that are out there, right? So we've already talked about verbal programming and how dramatic it affects us. What we want to do in the time that we have left is Harv talks about the second type of programming, which is called modeling. And modeling, more than anything, has to do with what were specifically when we were younger, what did we observe from our parents as we were growing up when it came to money or business or rich people? Were your parents business people, or were they employees, or were they on some kind of social security? You know, how did your parents earn a living? Do you think that might affect you and your thoughts about money? Were your parents thrifty, or were they very lavish with their money? Were they spenders? Were they savers? Do you think that might have an impact on who you are? Did your parents manage their money well, or did they never talk about managing their money? You never really saw any money management. Were both of your parents involved in managing the money, or did, like, your dad take care of all the stuff that had to do with money, and your mom always had to go to your dad anytime she wanted money, right? All these things have a huge impact on what your attitudes are about money. Did your dad like being around rich people, or did he always say something like, rich people are crooks and rich people are greedy, or rich people make their profits off the sweat of the poor? Raise your hand if you've ever heard that. Yeah, if you hear that and you believe it, guess what you never want to be? Rich. Because rich people, how do they make their money? Off the sweat of the... Yeah, you want to be known for that? No. Is that a good way to live your life? No. So if your dad, if your uncle, if your grandparents ever told you, rich people get rich off the sweat of the poor, that's their programming, isn't it? Guess what they just planted inside of you? They sure as hell did. And was that their belief system? And when you're young, you pretty much believe when an adult tells you something, it probably is true. So now you're taking on their belief system. True or true? Okay, so, you monkey see, monkey do, and humans aren't far behind. So we tend to be identical. What's the word? Identical. To one or a combination of both of our parents in the whole realm of money. Right? Unless we were so pissed off at them that instead of being identical to them, we were so pissed off at them, we chose to become the exact opposite. Raise your hand if you believe that's true. Right? And then Harv talks about this whole idea that, if you were angry at your parents because of their attitudes about money or how cheap they were or whatever it is, and you say, I'm going to show them. And now your desire for money has a root of anger. Making all the money in the world is never going to get rid of that anger. You need to deal with the anger. You guys understand what I'm talking about? Right? So, Harv says that too many people, that their reasons for wanting to get rich are based in fear, need, and obligation. And that's not a good root to have. Your root should be based on courage, purpose, and joy. What are the three words? Courage, purpose, and joy. Hey, if your roots are that you have a purpose to your life, there are hundreds, thousands, millions of people whose lives are going to benefit from the value you have to offer to them. So that as you earn more and more money, you're doing it with a purpose-driven set of roots. Does that make sense? Yes. Right? And you have courage to act behind your faith and your beliefs. And you are achieving joy. What's the word? Joy. How many want to live a life of joy? So you have to determine for yourself what's going to bring you joy. And if that's not part of your plan, change your frickin' plan. If your plan does not bring you joy, why are you doing it? You guys understand? Yes. Why are you on this earth? Yeah, to add value. How about to love your life? How about to live a joyous, prosperous, happy life? When you were born into this world, was that an option that was given to you? To live a happy, joyous, prosperous, meaningful life. Was that an option that was given to you? Yeah. Do all of us have that option? Yeah. To live a happy, prosperous, joyous, meaningful life. Yes. Are we adults now? Raise your hand if you're an adult. If you want to make that your choice, can you make that your choice? Yeah. What's stopping you from making that choice? The only thing that will stop you from making that choice is your current conditioned mind that wants to keep you right where you are. True or true? Okay, so again, what Harv says is that if we aren't careful, we are modeling, and in particular, the programming that we got primarily from our parents in the whole realm of money. So he says here, steps for changing modeling. Number one is awareness. This is on page 34, guys, so if you want to follow along. He says, consider the ways of being and habits each of your parents had around money and wealth. Write down how you may be identical or opposite to either of them. Now, we don't have time to do this right now, but I would highly encourage you to actually take 10 minutes and go through that process. Write down exactly how both your mom and your dad were in this whole realm. That's number one. That's called awareness. What's it called? Awareness. Okay, number two is understanding. Write down the effect this modeling has had on your financial life. So how has watching your parents and modeling your parents when it comes to money and business and success, how did that get in you, and how have your decisions been impacted because of the modeling you got? The third step, disassociation. What's the word? Disassociation. Can you see this way of being is only what you learned and it isn't you? Raise your hand if you understand that. It's not you. You're the container, and that your parents put these inside of your container. True or true? True. It's not you. It's not you. It's your parents' modeling that you've now put inside your container. He said, can you see you have a choice in the present moment to be different? Raise your hand if you can see. In this very moment, you can be different. Yeah. Okay. And finally, this reconditioning, but we're going to do the declaration. So I want everybody to please stand up on the count of 3. 1, 2, and 3. Woo! Okay, good. So I want you to place your hand over your heart and say, so I'll say it first, and then we'll all say it together. What I modeled around money was their way. I choose my way. Now you say it. What I modeled around money was their way. I choose my way. Again. What I modeled around money was their way. I choose my way. One more time. What I modeled around money was their way. I choose my way. Okay. Turn to both your neighbors, give them a high five, and say, you're awesome.
You're awesome. You're awesome.
All right, you are awesome. All right, have a seat, guys. Have a seat. Have a seat. Have a seat. Now, next week, what we're going to talk about the third and the final way that we're all programmed, and that third and final way is called specific incidents. What's it called? Yeah, and as we go through specific incidents, Harv tells a couple of stories. I'm going to tell a story about specific incidents and how things that happen to each one of us in our lives, especially when we were younger, have deeply impacted the way we think about things even to this day. How many believe that's true? And unfortunately, the more emotionally impactful it was, the deeper that it impacted us on the emotional level. So which level? Emotional. Even now as an adult, and you say, I know it's stupid that I feel that way, so logically we know we shouldn't feel that way. But when logic comes in conflict with emotion, you know what wins 100% of the time? Logic or emotion? Emotion, right? So even though we know it's crazy that we feel this way, we just feel that way because it was so deep emotionally, it impacted us so much at that moment when we were a child that unless we do some really, really deep processes, you're going to be stuck with that for the rest of your life. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. Right? So, specific incidents are critical. And everybody is going to, in their lifetime, have had incidents totally different from everybody else. True or true? True. So you're going to have certain incidents, things that happen in your life that had such a deep and profound impact on your psyche that you just think this way, and unfortunately, it may not be the way that's going to help you achieve your happiness and success in life. So until you identify these specific incidents and you bring them up and you deal with them head on and you overcome them, they will always be a mental block that you're never going to be able to overcome. How many understand what I just said? How many of you think right now you probably have some blocks that you're having a hard time overcoming? So great. So that's great. So specific incidences. All right. So really, really quickly, announcements. Anybody have anything that they have going on this week, next week, this month, ever that they want to share? Yes, go ahead.
So this Saturday and Sunday from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. I'm doing a 2-day workshop. I'm not doing it, but I'm attending one. Joe Weldon, he won the Golden Gavel Award. He won it before Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins. He's going to be putting this on. It's $100 if you want more information. I would highly recommend you go. Jeff, I think you would love it too, but I will be there for sure. And I've been taking my speaking more seriously, and if you want to know about Toastmasters and stuff like that, I've got people with their speeches, just let me
Just come and talk to Terry's. Okay, very good. All right, anybody else? Go ahead, Randy.
I also have a Toastmasters club. It meets Thursday mornings in Old Town Scottsdale, and I have some bookmarks, a reminder, and if you bring the bookmark to Toastmasters, you can get a free breakfast.
Oh, wow. All right, very good. All right, anyone else? Yeah, go ahead, Jonathan.
So I've been hosting music bingo in Avondale.
Yeah.
Every night, if you guys are interested in the one area, then I'll give you more information. Also, on Sunday, February the 16th, I will be performing at Tempe Improv. I will appreciate your support. If you guys go, I mean, 10 people will go at least. It is a 2-week minimum.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you, Jonathan. Anyone else? Go ahead, Sheila.
Our company is having a 90-day challenge for people to get healthier, lose weight, feel really great about themselves, and our products really work.
Okay, all right, very good. Anyone else? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
My wife makes really awesome, like folk/folktronica music. They're looking for gigs right now, so if you know anybody who has a venue, booking agents, let me know.
Okay, thank you, Alec. Anyone else? BP?
We are currently buying properties in Ohio, so we got about 10 properties in the pipeline that we're looking for private lenders. We are paying 12% on money, and that's a great way for you guys to arbitrage. Actually, Prince over there arbitraged somebody else's money, so he knew somebody with money. They found us. He made some money on that money.
Beautiful, very, very good. All right, anyone else? No? Okay, real quickly. This Wednesday, I am doing a Think and Grow Rich event at my office. It's already sold out, so you can't come this Wednesday. I'm going to be doing it again the following Wednesday. I believe that there are 2 books that you really need to internalize at the cellular level. Obviously, I feel very strongly about this book. The other book, of course, is Think and Grow Rich. And I've spent over 50 years reading and studying that book. And what we're going to be doing is we're all going to gather at my office. We're going to have a little bit of snacks, and then for 90 minutes, we're going to talk about how that book, more than just about any other book on the planet, will change your life faster than you can possibly imagine. So I want to encourage all of you guys, if you didn't sign up to come this Wednesday night, we're already sold out. Next Wednesday night, by all means, if you go to my page on Facebook, you'll see a link or whatever it is for that. So that wraps up today. You guys are totally amazing. So give yourselves a round of applause. Let's give it up one more time for our host, Corey. Hey, Corey! We love you, Corey. And Corey always does such a fantastic job. I mean, we got the fruit, we got the yogurt, we got the bagels, we got the nosh, we got the cream cheese and the lox and the juice and the coffee. I mean, it's unbelievable, right? Okay, so you guys have been totally amazing. Give yourselves one last round of applause. Great job. Okay, and I always end with one word, and that one word is namaste. Great job, guys. Thank you. Great job.
Have you figured out yet when the 2-day workbook class is going to be?
Yes. Here, first of all, let me just turn this off because we're done.